Nick Lattimore here with ConnectLAX. We got Jeff Turner, assistant men's coach at Detroit Mercy. Coach, thanks for joining us today. Super pumped to hear about your recruiting advice and a little bit about your school. So introduce yourself. Let's hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me on here, Nick. My name's Jeff Turner. As he mentioned, I'm an assistant coach here at Detroit Mercy. This is my third year at the school. We're located in the city of Detroit, which is cool for me. I'm a lifelong born and raised Detroiter. I went off, did my undergrad work at the University of Michigan, but our entire staff here at Detroit, all three of us that are full-time on staff, we all were born and raised in the Metro Detroit area. So for us, this is this place is definitely home. M&M on 8 Mile, you know, and it's nothing like that. No, it's an awesome place to be, and it's an awesome group of kids that we have here, and it's kind of a real joy to come to work and get to work with a bunch of guys that work pretty hard on a daily basis.
Hey, you guys have been really making a mark out there. I'm sure it's super exciting to represent your home state and really do some great things. Yeah,
no, absolutely. There's certainly a little bit of a personal element to it too. When you're when we are all born and raised in Michigan, we got a good chunk, about 30% of our team comes from the state of Michigan as well. So there's a lot of guys that have that kind of hometown feel to it too a little bit.
That's excellent, man. Great to hear about it. So, to get to start the recruiting interview, I know a lot of guys have a lot of questions out there. There's a lot of misinformation, but there's nothing like hearing it straight from the horse's mouth. So, the first thing is, you guys obviously, like I said, have been making some great strides. What do you look for in a recruit? What guy is that, Detroit Mercy guy, who's going to have that same passion about the area that they're in, their team they're on, as you guys do? And, what type of player best fits your program?
Yeah, I think the first thing for us, and to be completely honest, is right the talent. We say a lot of different things, and there are a ton of different things that go into when we recruit a kid. But the number one thing for us, the thing that is going to get anyone in the door, is always going to be that talent. And that's something that, as I've been around, as I've been on a few different staffs, that I've noticed is different. Right? What exactly they're looking for is different everywhere. I'd say for us, the biggest thing that we look for is a Division I athlete, to put it bluntly, right? Like, is he a Division I athlete, right? Because a lot of guys that we recruit are 2-3 sport athletes. That's something that's big for us through the recruiting process. So by the time they get here, right, now they're playing lacrosse year-round, essentially, for the first time in their lives, right? We think that they're going to get a fair bit better at lacrosse. Right? We think that we can teach some of their refining aspects of being a Division I lacrosse player. But for us, if they're struggling to keep up in the weight room, if they're struggling to keep up on the practice field in terms of the speed that we practice with, and if they're a midfielder struggling to beat their guy off a dodge, defenseman who's struggling to cover one-on-one, then it's difficult. So for us, that athleticism is really what gets kids in the door. And just really being someone that we think that can come in and can compete in practice from day one. And then from there, right, because for us that pool of kids is much bigger, much bigger than the pool of kids that we end up recruiting. And so for us, that's when the other things come into play. Then that's as we go through the recruiting process, it's the people that we talk to, kids that seem to be a good fit academically for us. Most kids that we recruit are right in the 3.5, 3.6, 3.7 range. So that range for us is big. It enables us to we don't have to use admission spots or anything on them. So that helps us a lot through the process.
Grades first, right?
Yeah. So the grades are the number one thing, all right, for after that point for us, and then just the response that we get from kids, right? Kind of what sort of environment do they come from? What are the coaches saying about them? What are the people surrounding them saying about them? And then are they someone that's going to buy into coming in the city of Detroit and competing every day at the Division I level?
Yep. And I think you brought up a good point with competing at the Division I level. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what type of requirements are needed, not just at a talent aspect, but at a commitment level, study halls, workout regimens and stuff. Could you talk a little bit about the day-to-day of that? The kind of requirements that a Division I athlete has, because I played Division I, my partner played MCLA, and our experiences were completely different. And I think the type of person that plays Division I is kind of like a lax or die type of mentality.
Yeah, it's certainly much more of a all-inclusive activity in terms of the time that it takes. So the way we do things right in the spring, our practices will start, we go in the mornings, so film will start for us on a daily basis, usually around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll do film, guys will practice, and then some days they'll have lift, and then usually they're done with lacrosse around 10 or 11 a.m. Guys schedule their classes after that. But then, most of our guys are taking full class loads, 15, 18 credits a semester. We have guys across every major. We have guys in the sciences, guys in engineering, guys in business, guys in liberal arts. So guys are all over doing a lot of different things, obviously a lot of academic demands. But then from there, right, we require study hall on a day-to-day basis. Guys have to do at least 5 hours a week of study hall. When they're underclassmen, and then there's the assortment of other activities that our guys are involved in. We have guys that are involved in a whole diversity of things, but pretty much from 6 a.m. when they show up to the lacrosse facility in the morning until at least 6 or 7 p.m. most days. Their days are booked pretty solid. And a lot of people think that they want that as they kind of go through the process, but once you get here and it's a very different experience than a lot of kids are getting that maybe friends from high school that went and didn't play a college sport. And so you're hearing about their experiences and what they're doing and how different of an experience that it is. So that can be a challenge because it's not always a lot of fun, right? You see the games on TV, you see the excitement of game day, you see all the cool stuff we pump out on our Twitter account sometimes, right? And it seems like it's a lot of fun, and it can be, but it's also a lot of work first, and the fun kind of comes later. So for us, I think that's the biggest challenge for guys when they come in. It's just they might understand in theory what it entails, but really doing it on a day-to-day basis can be a challenge.
Right, and I think you nailed it right on the head. There's not really a right or wrong. It's just a matter of what you want to do, what type of college experience you want to have. So, awesome. Thanks. Obviously, you guys are out in Detroit, and you're going all over the country looking for guys. What would you say is the best way to get on your recruiting radar to get in touch with you and get noticed?
Yeah, I'd say there's a few different things for us. One, I'd definitely say, and I know people hear it a lot, but sending an email that can always help. For us, it's we're never going to recruit a kid just off of an email, but to get on the radar and to have that name recognition for us is a big thing. And I'd say along with that, having a highlight tape is always huge. I think any email that you send should be accompanied with a highlight tape because otherwise I don't know how to differentiate any of the emails that we get on a day-to-day basis from who's a legitimate prospect and who's just emailing us for the heck of it. So having that highlight tape so we can click through it, just seeing a little bit of your little bit of what you have to offer as a player, and then that'll kind of spur more interest for us. We do things a little bit differently as well. We're out at a ton of events, so obviously, right, getting on a radar, being out at those events, emailing us ahead of time to let us know that you're going to be there. Again, just keeping that name recognition so that when we're at those events, if we see and we notice you, right, then we can go back and be like, oh yeah, I know who that kid is. But then also just as you go through with stuff, we do things a little bit differently too. So we'll oftentimes, if there's a kid that we're interested in, request some full game films from some of their summer tournaments. And so just having stuff like that available and just always being proactive with selling yourself, right? Kids have a great opportunity now, I think, with social media and the ease of accessibility and the ease of contact with people, right? Without going overboard, but just once in a while making sure that there's ways that they're continuing to get their name out there with the college coaching staffs.
Awesome. And on the point of emails and highlight tapes, I know we get a lot of questions from parents and players about what they should be putting in their emails and how they should be arranging their highlight films. What's the ideal email for you? Obviously, there's some people that might just throw out like a blanket email that's like, hey, coach so-and-so, da-da-da-da, nothing specific. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think for us, I think for us, shorter is almost better, right? There's kids that list every accomplishment. I know there's a lot of very accomplished kids out there, right? At the start of the process, that's not necessarily the biggest intrigue for us, right? Because we don't know how much of it, to be honest, how much is legitimate, how much is somewhat of an exaggeration. So I think brief is better early on, right? I think the biggest thing that a kid can do, one, is show why they're interested in Detroit Mercy, right? Like why us? Because we're offering something very different than other Division I schools are, certainly Division II, Division III schools, right? It's a unique experience. So I think kids that do well getting on our radar, right? We got a very strong business school, very strong engineering program, right? Kids that say, I'm very interested in that. I notice you have this program. That's something that I'm interested in. That's big for us. And then, like, just including grades in there, I think, right? Like, what are your grades? Sending a lot of transcripts, always good. We always need that early on in the process. And then just a highlight tape, right? Kind of just a basic, where you're from, what your grades are like, why are you interested in the school, and then here's my highlights, here's the tournaments that I'm going to be at. That pretty much gives us the information that we need then if there's some interest there on our side, right, to get that process moving, or if we see you later at a tournament, go back, find your email. That gives us kind of that basic information that we can build off of as we get started in the recruiting process.
Awesome. And then quickly on the highlight video, would you recommend, you said like a quick minute or two, best plays first, and then also, do you like to see kind of a frame of the play, or you just want to see like a goal, 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 goal? What's ideal for you? Because I know a lot of kids these days think, obviously with social media out there, it's great to see a quick goal, but not to have any context around that. How do you feel like that as a coach?
Yeah, I would definitely like to see some context around it. I mean, not too much, right? Like, there's some kids that will put 45 seconds before they touch the ball. That when I'm sitting in the office watching that, I'll be honest, I get a little bored waiting for them to touch the ball. But you definitely want to see some context. You want to see the competition, what that's like. So usually, like, a little bit of a longer clip is going to be better with that. But yeah, definitely first, like, best highlights first. Whatever you have, the best 3 plays that a kid has playing lacrosse and that they've had over the last 2 years. It doesn't matter if it's in summer ball, if it's in high school, whatever it is. Those best 3 plays should always be first. Because if you're not capturing the attention of a coach usually in the first couple plays, then it's going to be tough to garner that through a highlight tape.
Great. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. I know a lot of people also appreciate that. So also moving on, what areas of player development should these guys be focused on? Obviously the Thompson brothers are awesome and everybody wants to do a shovel shot, but what kind of things should you feel that players are going to really excel in Division I by focusing on these particular skills and work habits?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a little bit different for each player, but I think the number one thing that I think that we see guys struggle with when they get here oftentimes is playing at full speed. Right, there's a lot of guys, right? But a lot of people will say, hit the wall. Hitting the wall is great. You should always be on the wall. Getting a lot of shots, and if you're an offensive guy, working a lot on your footwork and your off-ball play, your off-ball positioning, stick placement, all that stuff is great for a defensive guy, right? But then when guys get here and the speed's ratcheted up, it's one thing to be able to go out and stand on a wall and throw a ball and hit the wall 100 times, right? And you're going to catch all 100 and you're going to switch hands and you probably can do it with both hands, right? But then when you're out on the practice field and you're having to play at 100 miles an hour and you have to make that same pass at 100 miles an hour while you're running downhill off of a dodge and you got to move the ball very quickly, right? That's oftentimes where guys really struggle. So I think that's the biggest thing for guys as they go forward is, right, being able to defend if you're a defenseman, being able to defend a Dodger who's going full speed, right? Being able to play a good position the entire time through a possession while there's 100 things going on around you, right? For offensive guys, being able to pass and catch at full speed, being able to shoot on the run at full speed, not having to slow down. All that stuff is really big, and I think that's something that a lot of kids really struggle to do at high school level because it takes a lot of dedication, right? It takes having that skill set, but then also having that attitude that I'm going to go after it. I might just be on the wall today, I might just be shooting today, but I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to do it as hard as I can because that's what's going to make me better.
Stellar. Yeah, great advice, Coach. Thank you. Some common recruiting mistakes and pitfalls that parents and players run into during the process that, kind of hinders it. What do you feel, they should avoid, and, what are some of those that you run into?
I think one big thing for any kid, parent, etc., is being realistic about the process, right? Being realistic about where you're at as a player, where you're at as a student, what's going to be a good fit for you. I can't tell you how many times we'll go through a recruiting process with a kid, and they're just they want to be recruited so badly, and then at the end that they say, well, do you know what, Coach, like, I'm not like, they'll just kind of just say, oh, I really just want to do this major, that's something that we don't even offer, right? And at the start of the process, they'll be like, I'm kind of interested in whatever, and at the end they're like, do you know what, I really want to do this one thing, and you guys don't offer it. And I think it's a waste of time on both ends, and also, kids being realistic, who think that they can play at a Big Ten ACC level when maybe they're down more at our level, or think that they can play at our level when maybe they're better suited for a lower level of lacrosse, right? There's an opportunity for everyone to play at every level if that's what they want, but it's important for people to be realistic and understand this is the school that I'll be going to, right? When you're 40 years old, right, you're still known in a lot of ways by the college that you went to, right? It's a part of you for the rest of your life, right? And thinking of that, and I think it's tough to do, especially as recruiting's gotten earlier and you're recruiting sophomores and juniors in high school, right? But I think it's tough to think about, is this what I want to be part of my identity? But I think that that's really important. Is this something that I want to affiliate myself with? Is this program something I want to be affiliated with? And is this school something that I want to be a part of for the rest of my life? I'm sure you still, have those connections to your college. I know I certainly do, and everyone does. So having that sense and going through the process of, is this something that I could really see for myself in the long term? I think that's huge. And I think that helps make it much easier to narrow it down and to kind of rid yourself of some of those false assumptions and false assessments of yourself.
I think that's some great advice, Coach. And yeah, the network is invaluable. And, as us as lacrosse players and post-grads know, is that, our friends who played MCLA or D1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter what level you played at. If you meet another lacrosse player, you're like, oh, you play lacrosse? Great. Let me try to help you out. And I know I've experienced that in the job market. My friends have, and you obviously as well. And it's just a beautiful network. And, it's great to hear people like yourself, explain that no matter what level you're at, you're going to have a great experience and a great network from that. So thank you.
No, absolutely.
Cool. Well, Coach, this has been great. Thank you so much. Do you have any other closing thoughts you want to leave everyone with, or?
No. Just thanks for having me on. Really excited, and we're gearing up. Got the season starting here soon, and I know we're getting ready to get after it and open the season with a win on February 11th against Ohio State.
Let's go. All right, Coach. Well, hey, this has been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll be looking out for you.
All right, awesome. Thanks a lot, Nick.